Knowing the times. Knowing the times is very important, very significant. Things are taking place right now in the world. I'm doing this video, I'm recording this video. It's July 20th of 2020. And there's some things that I just want to share about where we are in in the scope of God's timeline and where we are as a people, what's taking place in the spirit realm. With knowing this, it helps us to be able to make decisions that are spiritually beneficial and naturally beneficial. Needless to say, we are in difficult times, and a lot of things that the Lord had me prophesy about the year 2020, they already have come to pass for the most part. And I'm looking at, as we progress throughout the rest of the year and going into next year, things are expected to get worse before they can get better, and very bad before it comes to an end. Needless to say, we're in a shift. A new era has begun. A new era has begun, and we're seeing this. We're seeing this in the United States. For race relations that's taking place. It's the end of one thing, and God is doing something new. But during the period between the end and the beginning, there's an intermediary period where there's such great war in the realm of the spirit, and we will experience that war in the natural. So what's brewing right now, what's seething right now? But before I get to that, I want to say that the Lord had revealed to me back in 2018, and I prophesied about this, that the spirit of Pharaoh is over this nation. And when I say the spirit of Pharaoh, I'm not speaking about a man. I'm speaking about a spiritual government. A spiritual government is taking place. There's a principality at work. And what is a principality? A principality is a spiritual entity that is given dominion and authority over a particular territory. And usually when we think of territory, we're thinking about geographical locations or places, but that's not necessarily the case. You may have a principality that's assigned over a territory, and it's a regional territory. But when I say territory, I mean in the realm of the spirit. A principality is a demonic government where there is a main head spirit and demonic spirits under that spirit that will go forth and execute whatever commands they are given to. And so there is a principality at work and assigned to be the oppressors of certain people groups. And so in this conversation that we're having right now, in the middle of year 2020, we know that there's a principality at work to try to prevent the shift and the changes that God has released for people of African descent. There's an era that ended, as I said, a 400-year period where people of African descent in the Americas, that we were enslaved and oppressed for a period of time. And the end of that has come. So from year 1619 being the very first trip from the west coast of Africa to the Caribbean islands and to the United States to the year 2019 that fulfilled 400 years. Now, why I say that there's a principality at work is because as you look at what's going on today, this is not new. It's happened before. It's happened before. We saw in the book of Exodus, you can read and you can see that during the time of Pharaoh and Moses, when God had given the command to let my people go, this was a major shift from the spirit of slavery that was operating through the Pharaoh. And the people of God, they were under an oppressive spirit to keep them enslaved. And so what took place was there were two things taking place simultaneously. There were plagues upon the land, and there was also the revolution of a people. Those two things coincided. And that was also the end of a approximately 400-year period of enslavement for the children of Israel. And so, as we're looking at it now, what's taking place? Two things simultaneously. We have a revolution of the race to end oppression and discrimination right in the midst of plagues upon the land, this pandemic, and right at the end of a 400-year period. This has happened before, and this is how you know that there is a principality working, because what that spirit was able to execute and the operation that it was able to perform, it's being replicated. It has been replicated. So, centuries ago, when this happened in the setting of the Exodus, it's happening now. And there is an Exodus that's occurring because we see that God, the finger of God, was at work significantly in the month of June 2020, where many laws were rewritten on the behalf or to the benefit or advantage of people of African descent in America. God is so very much a part of what's going on. But when I say that the spirit of Pharaoh is over the nation, is because we have to also now look back at the type and pattern of what took place in Exodus. When God began to say, let my people go, Pharaoh did not take this lightly. There was a lot of resistance. Though God spoke through the plague, though God spoke through shaking the heavens, though God spoke through, all these different things, Pharaoh, the government, natural government, did not take God. They did not revere or humble themselves at his word. And so because of that, things progressed, things worsened. There was great affliction upon the land until it touched the Pharaoh's family. When his firstborn was affected, that is when it truly brought him to his knees. But even with that, it was still in his heart. He could not bend. His pride was being governed. God had allowed this principality power to take over so that a wonder could be performed, so that what God could only do, what only could be attributed to God, was done. And so if we're looking at what happened then, and we see how much of it we're seeing now, just know that going forward from this point, I'm recording this video on July 20th of 2020, that we are in times where the people of God must seek God for wisdom and must be very prayerful in order to overcome what is to come. We must use wisdom. We must be safe. And when I say safe, I don't mean only pertaining to our health, but great violence will erupt, especially, around the time of towards the end of the year after the election, because there's so much hate that's being incited now. It's being fueled, the fire, the flame is being fanned, the fire is being fanned. There's so much hate brewing. It's just ready to burst out of the seams. And depending on the outcome of the election in November, either way in which it goes, we will see an uprising of violence like we've never experienced before. The last time something like this was experienced was in the last Civil War in the 1960s, when this same thing that is being fought for was, taking place. And so I want to encourage us. When I say know our times, we must know our times. We must know what it is that God is doing in spite of what the enemy is doing. I also believe that we haven't seen the end of this pandemic, because I do believe that is biological warfare. I know there's some explanations about how it infected human beings and such, and there always has to be a story to something. But one thing I do know is that the vision that the Lord showed, the dream the Lord showed me, was a very intentional act that took place, and I don't believe it's over. I believe by the time that the nations, that they're able to develop a vaccine in order to vaccinate against this COVID-19, that COVID-19 will already have shifted itself to something else, and it'll be a new fight. So when will we see the end of these things? I don't know when we'll see the end of these things, but I expect that we will be having this conversation for quite some time to come. And as I said, people of God, we're living in serious times, and we must remain prayerful. And we must also remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, spiritual wickedness in high places, rulers of darkness. So therefore, we must have a spiritual source to keep us awake and alert. My prayer goes out for everyone in this time. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found, and repent, because the coming of the Lord is at hand. God bless you.